Before we start, if you haven't watched part 1, pause this and go back, because nothing in this video will make sense without it. 2 years before Dr. Raghav Singhania ever set foot in Kundingar, a builder repairing the clinic's foundation vanished for 3 days, then walked out of the forest with no memory of where he'd been. And one sentence he repeated to anyone who'd listen: "It isn't buried. It's waiting." Raghav never heard that story. He didn't need to. He'd already been dreaming it his entire life. Tonight, we find out what Sudha became, what's actually underneath that clinic, and why Raghav was always going to end up standing in front of it, because some of you got close in the comments, but nobody guessed how far back this actually goes. 3 days after Danny's death, Sudha reappeared exactly where she'd vanished from, standing in the clinic's main hallway at midnight, as though she'd never left at all. Kristen saw her first and nearly dropped the tray in her hands. "Sudha? Sudha, where have you been? We searched everywhere." "I never left, Kristen." Sudha's voice came out wrong. Too even, too slow, like something reading her words off a script it didn't fully understand. "You just weren't looking in the right place." Raghav emerged from his office at the sound of voices and stopped dead in the hallway. "Sudha, your arms." Sudha looked down at her own forearms, laced with the same ash-gray discoloration that had crept over Danny's skin the night he died, and smiled in a way neither of them had ever seen her smile before. "You keep asking what happened to me, doctor. You still haven't asked the only question that matters." "What question?" "Why you?" She tilted her head, unnaturally slow. "You've been dreaming about this building since you were a child. Don't you want to know who's been dreaming you back?" Kristen grabbed Raghav's arm and pulled him back a step. "Raghav, that is not her. Look at her eyes." Sudha's pupils had swallowed her irises completely, twin pools of black that reflected no light from the hallway fixtures at all. Raghav had spent every night since Danny's death searching the clinic's original records, hunting for anything that connected his family name to Kundingar. What he found instead was a single sealed door in the basement that appeared on no blueprint, no inspection report, no inventory the government had ever filed. "Kristen, come look at this. This door isn't on any floor plan. Not the original 1962 build. Not the renovation records, nothing. It's like the building was designed to hide the fact that this room exists." "Then don't open it, Raghav. I mean it." Whatever happened to Sudha started the night she heard something crying behind a locked door. "You want to open another one?" "I have spent my entire life dreaming about a hallway that ends at a door exactly like this one. I have to know if it's the same door, Kristen. I have to." The lock gave way easier than either of them expected, as though it had been waiting to be opened rather than built to keep anyone out. Inside, no equipment, no hospital furniture, nothing resembling a clinic room at all. Just bare stone walls older than the rest of the building, and at the center of the floor, a single carved circle surrounding a name worn nearly smooth by time. Kristen crouched down and ran her fingers along the letters. "Raghav, this says Singhania." Raghav's voice had gone hollow. "That's my family's name." Raghav found the old man again that same night, waiting outside his hut as though he'd known Raghav would come. "You went into the room. How do you know that?" "Because the whole village heard the sound when you opened it. A sound like something finally exhaling after holding its breath for 60 years. The old man's expression wasn't fear anymore. It was something closer to grief. "I told you not to build there. I never told you why, because you wouldn't have believed me, and because some part of me hoped you wouldn't be able to. Tell me now, please. My nurse is not herself. A child is dead. I need to understand what's underneath my own clinic." The old man exhaled slowly. 60 years ago, before the government built anything on that land, it belonged to your grandfather. Raghav went still. "That's impossible. My father told me we had no connection to this village." "Your father was a child when it happened. Maybe he doesn't remember. Maybe he remembers everything and chose to bury it the same way that room was buried." The old man's eyes didn't waver. "Your grandfather built a private clinic on that land, not for the village. For himself. He was obsessed with a single idea. That death could be delayed, negotiated with, if you gave it something in return." "Negotiated with how?" "With patients who trusted him. Villagers who came to him sick and desperate, the same way that boys' parents came to you. He didn't heal them, Dr. Singania. He offered them to something in exchange for keeping his own family alive and prosperous for generations. That circle you found in that room, that is where the offering was made. 61 people from this village went into that clinic and were never seen again. The 62nd was your grandfather himself. The night the village finally found out and burned the building's front half to the ground. The government rebuilt the front 2 years later, called it a public clinic, and never once mentioned what stood there before, because officials were paid well to forget, the same way your father was raised to forget. But what's underneath that floor was never destroyed. It was only ever fed. And it has been hungry and patient for 60 years, waiting for someone with your grandfather's blood to walk back through that door and finish what he started. Then that's what's inside Sudha. That's what took Danny. Raghav's hands were shaking. It's not random. It's collecting what it's owed. It's collecting what your family promised it, Doctor. Your grandfather offered it 62 lives and only ever delivered 61, because the village stopped him before he could give it his own. It has been waiting 60 years for someone to complete the debt his family owes, and dreams don't call the wrong person by accident. They called you because you're the one who can finally close it. One way or the other. Kristen had followed him and heard everything from the doorway. Close it how? What is it asking for? The old man looked at Raghav with something that wasn't quite pity. The same thing it was always owed. One more life, freely given, from the bloodline that made the promise. Or the door stays open, and it keeps taking whoever it wants from this village until that debt is paid. The way it took that boy, and the way it's wearing your nurse right now like a borrowed coat. They found Sudha waiting for them in the sealed room when they returned, sitting cross-legged inside the carved circle as though she'd been placed there. You spoke to the old man. Her voice layered 2 tones at once now, one clearly hers, one clearly not. Good. Then you already know how simple this is. One life, freely given. It doesn't have to be painful, Raghav. It doesn't even have to be you. Let her go, whatever is inside her. Let Sudha go, and take me instead. She has nothing to do with my family's debt. No! Kristen grabbed his arm. Raghav, don't you dare. She isn't leaving either way, Doctor. Sudha's head tilted, slow and wrong. She was never offered. She was only ever a vessel to get you standing exactly where you're standing now. The debt was never hers to pay. It was never Danny's either. It was only ever waiting for you. Sudha rose to her feet, and for one moment, her eyes cleared completely. Fully herself, fully terrified, fully aware of everything that had happened inside her own body for the past 3 days. Raghav, her real voice breaking. Don't listen to it. Whatever it says, don't give it what it wants. Get Kristen out of here. Please. Her eyes went black again mid-sentence. The moment of clarity swallowed as fast as it had surfaced. I'm not giving you Sudha, and I'm not giving myself either. Raghav knelt at the edge of the circle, steady despite everything. You said the debt belongs to my grandfather's bloodline. You never said it had to be a life. You said he promised 62 souls and delivered 61. But you never once said it has to end the same way it started. You cannot bargain with what's already owed, Dr. Singania. I'm not bargaining. I'm ending it. Raghav pulled a folded document from his coat. His grandfather's original land deed, recovered from the sealed archive room earlier that night, the paper that had let this arrangement exist at all. This debt exists because this land was legally his to offer. I am the last of that bloodline standing on it. And I am formally, permanently signing this land back to the village he stole it from. He set the deed inside the circle and struck a match. No blood, no offering. Just the thing that made the promise possible in the first place undone. He dropped the burning paper onto the stone. If I'm the only one who can close this, then I'm closing it exactly like this, not by feeding you, but by making sure there's nothing left for you to collect on. The circle's carved lines flared white-hot beneath the burning deed, and Sudha's body convulsed once, violently, before collapsing to the floor. The ash-gray discoloration drained from her skin like water pulled down a drain, and the fluorescent light above them steadied for the first time in days. Silence. Real silence. The kind Raghav realized he hadn't heard once since arriving in Kundangar. Sudha survived, physically whole, but with no memory of the 3 days she'd been gone, and a fear of enclosed rooms that never fully left her afterward. She returned to her family in the city within the month, unable to stay anywhere near the clinic again. Kristen stayed. So did Raghav. They sealed the room permanently, not with a lock this time, but with concrete, poured by Raghav's own hands the way he'd once rebuilt the clinic's front doors. The old man visited once more before Raghav could thank him properly, and found the doctor standing at the edge of the forest, staring at the building he'd once dreamed of his entire life. "Do you still dream about it?" "No." Raghav didn't look away from the clinic. "Last night was the first night in 26 years I didn't dream about this place at all. Then it's done. Truly done." The old man allowed himself, for the first time, something close to a smile. "Your grandfather spent his whole life trying to buy his family a future with other people's lives. You just spent one night giving that future back to the people it was always supposed to belong to." Danny's parents were never told the full truth, only that the sickness that took their son had finally been contained, and that no other family in Kundangar would ever lose a child to it again. It was, in its own way, not a lie. The clinic reopened 3 weeks later under Raghav and Kristen, and for the first time since its original doors were built 60 years earlier, it functioned exactly as a hospital should. A place that healed people instead of quietly feeding on them. Some places don't wait for you by accident. Sometimes they've been waiting for exactly what your family owes them, long before you were ever born to pay it. That's the end of the hospital that shouldn't exist. If you want more true-style horror like this, let us know in the comments which story we should tell next. And if this 2-part series worked for you, that tells us exactly what to build more of.